Esse é o Clássicos MTV voltando com o Fabio Massari. Edição de sábado do Clássicos MTV é a coletânea, os melhores momentos da semana, mas na verdade estamos temperando a nossa coletânea com um convidado especial, Mr. Lou Reed, que vai aparecer agora pela primeira vez dentro dessa edição do programa. Um toque sobre a entrevista de Lou Reed é que Lou Reed não é um entrevistado fácil, mas eu já me corrijo aí, já aponto um erro nessa minha frase, porque Lou Reed não é um entrevistado. Lou Reed é Lou Reed, ponto final. Ele pode se permitir aí uma série de ironias, um certo tipo de cinismo e pode se permitir também algumas reticências nas respostas. Você não pode esperar que o Lou Reed venha aí e se abra, conte uma série de detalhes sobre a sua vida aí cheia de tribulações, mas por causa disso mesmo é que a gente sabe que qualquer coisa dita por Lou Reed pode ser considerada um registro histórico, principalmente para os anais do Clássicos MTV. Temos agora o primeiro momento de bate-papo com Lou Reed. Vamos partir na sequência para um videoclipe ao vivo do Velvet Underground, daquela famosa volta do Velvet, mas antes a gente aproveita para falar justamente um pouquinho sobre Velvet Underground, e é claro que eu tive que amarrar o assunto a Frank Zappa, porque diziam que tinha uma rixa entre os dois. Vamos falar de Rock and Roll Hall of Fame e, na verdade, vamos conversar com ele, o nosso convidado de hoje, Mr. Lewis Alan Reed. These so-called seminal bands, Velvet Underground Stooges, were bands that were definitely not selling lots of records at the time they were sort of actually playing. Do you got any idea of how many records you were selling at the time?
Zero.
Zero. What do you think that sort of changed along the years that sort of started to...
I don't know.
Something that you're not curious about these kind of things. I mean,
Curious, but I have no idea. I don't have any idea. I always loved what we did. I thought what we did was very worthwhile and important and meaningful and heartfelt. But I can't do anything beyond that.
apart from interviews, I mean, when do you ever sort of go back to in time and sort of remember specific gigs, specific moments, either with the Velvet Underground or very early days? Never.
No.
They're not.
Spend time in the past.
But still, there are not many. So it's not that we have plenty of footage of the Velvet Underground playing, or again, you playing at the Velvet.
No footage. There's almost no footage.
So we have to rely on.
Very funny when you consider the fact we were with Andy Warhol, who was filming everything.
That's right, yeah.
But he didn't film the Velvet Underground.
What would you say is the most outstanding aspect of the Velvet Underground playing live at that time?
Honesty and passion.
I think that most of the bands nowadays sort of lack this honesty and passion for what they're doing.
Oh no, I think there's lots of bands that have honesty and passion.
What about the induction to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the Velvet Underground thing being inducted after so many years? Is it final, some sort of recognition, or it's just another sort of...
Oh, I thought it was very nice. I was just surprised that some people seemed to resent it and make it as though it's a bad thing.
You were actually responsible for the induction of Frank Zappa on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. As a big Frank Zappa fan, I mean, I keep on saying out loud I was the only Brazilian to interview Frank Zappa. And I remember reading somewhere that back at the late 60s, there was some sort of rivalry between the Velvet Underground and the Mothers of Invasion that you're now sort of going along together. Is that right?
It's so long ago. There was, East Coast versus the West Coast, but nothing that meant anything. It's not really important.
Frank Zappa specifically, were you into his music, or do you think he sort of stands more nowadays because of his attitude, his establishment?
I admire him as an iconoclastic personality.
Something that Neil Young said, that he would love to see you playing with the Crazy Horse. Would you like to do that? I remember reading somewhere that you said that there's a new...
I would love to do that. I would do that in a minute. That would be great fun.
Esse é Fabio Massari voltando, o Clássicos MTV também voltando. Eu tinha que mostrar isso aqui. Lou Reed, dedicatória, exatamente. E temos um símbolo aqui que, na verdade, estamos discutindo se trata-se de um coração ou de uma bundinha. De qualquer maneira, Clássicos MTV, edição de sábado, voltando com o Fabio Massari. Temos convidado especial, batemos um papo no Rio de Janeiro com Lou Reed, um dia antes da sua primeira apresentação brasileira. E por falar em apresentações, a gente esteve trocando uma ideia, já que a gente cruzou com o Lou Reed na Suíça, ou melhor, vimos o show do Lou Reed num daqueles festivais da Suíça. E eu justamente perguntei para ele sobre participações em festivais festivais. Primeiro, a semelhança de Patti Smith, ele não se lembrava muito bem do festival. Na verdade, eu conversei com a Patti Smith, ela não sabia nem em que cidade ela estava. Deve ser coisas da estrada, ficar tocando todo dia. Você acaba nem sabendo direito onde você está tocando, mas você sobe lá em cima e manda a bala dar o seu recado. Lou Reed faz isso como poucos. A gente continua batendo um papo com ele, grande convidado. Na sequência tem videoclipe antes, tem o próprio conversando com a gente. O próprio é ele, Lou, esse aqui do autógrafo, ó, Lou Reed.
What about playing huge festivals? We saw at the Palio Festival 40,000 people, and you're playing sort of in Brazil in 1,000 people capacity venues.
Playing in that one?
ZZ Top, Patti Smith, all these people.
Oh, that was great fun. That was great fun. That had 3 stages, didn't it? Yeah. Yeah. No, that was really good. That was a good show. I like a lot of different things. It's fun to play a lot of different things. I wouldn't just want to play big shows because they're a lot of fun, but then it's also fun to have a smaller show where you can get close to the people.
You need a busload of faith to get by. Watch, baby. Busload of faith to get by.
Was really at the front, and I had the impression that sometimes during the concert you were sort of focusing on individual figures of the crowd. I mean, is it possible to look at someone individually at the crowd when you're playing to 40,000 people? I mean, or you get this sort of abstract image of the crowd?
No, I always have the light set up so I can see.
So can't depend on the sacrament. No father, no.
I always have it set up so I can always see people because I'm trying to really relate to the people. I usually try to find someone who's really listening.
What about the set list nowadays? How do you sort of revisit your old material in order to set your set list? I mean, how do you please the die-hard fans that are into the very early stuff? How do you please the sort of younger generations that maybe discovered you from New York onwards?
I try to play a mixture of things. Some old things, some new things. Actually, a lot of new things. And I hope that they like it. I don't tour forever, so I haven't played a lot of the old things in a while, so it's like a new song for me.
A perfect day to just walk around. See you fight with me, check the sounds. I wanna hooky with you. I wanna hooky with you.
You ever sort of go back to your old records and discover things that you weren't playing for ages and you say, this is a good one to play on this new set? Do you ever sort of discover songs?
No, I never listen to the records.
Never?
No.
Tá aí, esse é o Clássicos MTV, edição de sábado, voltando com o Fabio Massari, com um registro fotográfico de Lou Reed impecável. Não é nem Lou Reed aí, nessa fase aí temos o animal do rock and roll animal, Lewis Alan Reed, em desempenho ao vivo na sua terra natal, Nova York, muito importante para o próprio tipo de som de Lou Reed, Nova York, e o trabalho dentro do estúdio. O cara é super caprichoso, sabe exatamente o que ele quer da sua guitarra, e na hora de subir ali em cima do palco, o resultado, mais uma vez, quem viu, quem não viu as apresentações vai ter que ficar na saudade, ou melhor, vai bater um papo com o próprio para saber justamente do trabalho em estúdio, como é que ele tira aqueles sons e mais alguns detalhes de conversa exclusiva para o Clássicos MTV. Mais uma vez estamos no Rio de Janeiro batendo papo com o nosso convidado, Mr. Lewis Alan Reed.
Right. Talking about the new album set, The Twilight Dreaming, I mean, you got some very distinct guitar sounds over there. It's definitely, you know what you want from the guitar, what you want from the band. And especially fans, they have the idea of the studio as a poetic place where anything can happen. So bands sort of gathering together and creating everything over there. Is it possible to do a record like the set, The Twilight Dreaming, really nowadays, sort of playing live the whole band, or you have to go to that process of sort of layers of guitar, drums first, and all these kind of things?
Set to Twilight Reeling is essentially a live album cut in the studio with a couple of overdubs. I think there's remarkable things you can do in home studios these days relatively cheaply. You just really need to know some of the technical things of the recording, and off you go.
I mean, because fans have the idea of bands sort of staying sort of 10 months to record an album, so that all that poetic thing of the band sort of playing together sort of seems to have escaped, and there's no place for sort of jamming. Is there a place for sort of jamming to create things out of
There's a place for all kinds of ways of recording. Some people make great records just using samples and overdubbing and overdubbing and overdubbing, and other people, you have a live band cutting it. There's a lot of ways to do things. I don't think there's necessarily any right or wrong way.
And none of my old flames ever talk to me when things end for me, they end. They take your pants, your money, your name, but the songs still remain.
What about improvising? I mean, especially on the live set, playing live. I mean, your band is so tight. I mean, you're having such a good time up there. That's the impression that we have. I mean, to actually find time to improvise up there, sort of. Are you sort of too critic when you finish a show? Do you sort of discuss with the band, "Oh, we did this bad, this was good"? I doubt it, but
We're always doing little things on stage. I mean, I love playing with these guys. This is a particularly great band, and it's never the same every night. It's always different. It's always interesting. And musically, there's always a lot of things that are different that are going on. I don't know if the audience necessarily knows, but we certainly do.
Convidado no Clássicos MTV, Mr. Lou Reed.
right, as you mentioned vinyl and bootlegs. What about record collection? I remember reading somewhere that a couple of years ago you had all your records stolen. Is that right?
Yeah, I lost a lot of records.
Did you manage to sort of replace them?
Not all of them, no. Some of them I couldn't replace because I didn't really know the exact title, so I couldn't replace them.
Are you sort of an avid music consumer to sort of go out and buy records? What sort of things do you
Once in a while I go out and just buy a lot of records.
Yeah. Any rock records? What sort of things do you listen to?
Some of them are rock. I listen to all kinds of different things. I don't always remember the name of who I'm listening to.
Why can't I be good? Why can't I act like a man? Why can't I be good and do what other men can? Why can't I be good? Make something of this life. If I can't be a god, let me be more than a wife. Why can't I be good?
A couple of people in England, and they saw the Velvet Underground at the reunion tour you did playing Glastonbury, and they said that young kids were really freaking out, probably kids that weren't even born when you sort of played the try. What sort of things do you think that appeal to these younger generations of the Velvet Underground music specifically?
I don't know.
Don't you think that, I mean, maybe most of these kids have this strange idea? I mean, the nastiest the stories they hear about someone, I'm talking about Lou Reed, Iggy Pop, all this kind of, she attacking me. The nastiest the story, it seems that the character turns into a cool person. Is it something that it can be dangerous for the artist in a way?
I don't pay attention to those things, so I have no idea.
Shiny, shiny, shiny boots of leather.
You experienced the music press in the 60s, in the 70s, in the 80s, and now in the 90s. Do you see any sort of progression, or do you think that music journalists are improving, they're doing their task properly? And because, I mean, it definitely has a place in all the music universe, the music press. I mean, either we like it or not. I mean, magazines are there, MTV is there, radio is there. Do you think that journalists are doing their homework?
I think the music journalists are far better educated about music now than they used to be. Oh, I don't know. You can't take that stuff seriously.
But I mean, it's definitely something that you can't avoid. I mean, to be labeled, all these kind of things. I mean, to be treated as a myth, as a legend.
I don't pay attention to it.
Pelo Clássicos MTV, edição de sábado também voltando aqui pela sua Music Television brasileira. Estamos quase encerrando essa edição extraordinária do Clássicos MTV, que tem como convidado especial ele, Lou Reed. Ainda no final dessa edição vamos dar alguns aniversários do dia exatamente, e agora partimos para o seguinte. Lou Reed vai falar sobre MTV, vai dar a sua opinião sobre a MTV, vai falar mais algumas coisinhas, inclusive revelar um disquinho que ele levaria para a ilha, mas eu vou dar um toque de uma coisa que aconteceu fora da entrevista, ou melhor, parte da entrevista, mas que não está registrada. É o seguinte, a gente estava falando de biografias e é curioso como duas biografias diferentes podem incomodar de maneira diferente um mesmo personagem. Temos aqui esses dois registros biográficos, esse aqui de um cara chamado Peter Doggett, que é editor de uma boa revista chamada Record Collector. Te diria que é uma biografia mais objetiva, que só levanta os fatos aí, dá as informações corretas, precisa, jornalisticamente é uma biografia precisa, a gente poderia dizer. E por outro lado temos essa biografia aqui de nome Transformer, de um cara chamado Victor Knickerbockers, das internas ali de Nova York, já fez biografia do Blonde, do próprio Velvet Underground, do Andy Warhol, um cara que é, de alguma maneira, do mesmo círculo de amizades, vamos dizer assim, de Lou Reed, que revelou nessa biografia facetas um pouco mais obscuras da vida de Lou Reed, que a gente, no fim das contas, acaba sabendo por outras fontes. Mas, na verdade, o tratamento dessa biografia é muito mais simbolista, vamos dizer assim, o que acabou por incomodar Lou Reed, que não gostou muito de responder sobre o negócio das biografias, mas depois ele veio falar para mim que é meio que inadmissível que um cara perca 2 anos da sua vida vasculhando na vida de outra pessoa, quando no fim das contas o trabalho desse biógrafo não vale um pontinhos, porque daí ele mandou um palavrão, cada um complete como quiser, porque aqui no Clássicos MTV a presença do homem é motivo de alegria. Vamos de videoclipe, mas antes vamos de bate-papo com ele, esse cara aqui, ó, Mr. Lou Reed.
Well, you're playing much before MTV appeared in the map. And how do you see the situation of MTV nowadays, and especially the video thing? I mean, you've been doing some pretty good classic videos, shall we say. I mean, you even had the approval of Beavis and Butthead to one of your videos. You know the one, the skull one. But what do you think of the video thing and the so-called power of MTV over especially new bands?
Well, it's hard to understand some of it. Sometimes the budget for a video will be more than an album. You could have made 2 albums for the cost of a video. So, in that sense, you have to wonder about the priorities of things. But I'm a musician, really, not a video artist. So there are people who are much better at the videos than I am and put a lot of time into it. I always just try to get the best cinematographer that I know to work on it.
What good is life without living? What good's this lying in the box? You love the life others throw away nightly, it's not fair. Not fair at all. What's good?
What about the writing thing? I mean, the craft of writing. I mean, do you ever see yourself sort of just writing without playing music, sort of writing a book, a romance, or something like this?
Oh, I've been writing some things that I've been keeping to myself. You know, they're not. No plans for publishing it right now. I don't write for a public. I write for myself.
Any main difference between the things you write for yourself and what comes up in your music?
No, they're the same.
Fly, fly away from this dirty boulevard. I want to fly from the dirty boulevard. I want to fly from the dirty boulevard. I want to fly, 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 fly.
So that's it then. Would you say, I mean, you have a favorite record along your career, I mean, from your records?
Oh no, I like all of them.
And the famous island question, if you were to take a couple of your favorite, this is the last one. No records? No rock records you're into?
There's lots of rock records that I'm into. I just couldn't figure out which 3. I'd take a couple of hundred. I would take Ornette Coleman, Lonely Woman.
All right. Thanks very much.
Okay.
Thank you.